Hello there and welcome. I'm Rick and this is Pivot Talk. So, thank you for joining us today live on our first ever Pivot Talk show here on Known Live. Today, we will be talking about some very important discussions as we, technical difficulty there, as we are navigating very uncertain times right now. We have a very special guest with us today and a couple of other guests that will be showing up. Today we have Bob Bishop from Apex Consulting here. Hi, Bob. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. So we'll be bringing on some panelists in just a few short moments, but Bob of Apex Consulting has a tool that he'll be using today and introducing a little bit in our introductory pivot talk. And this tool allows him to work with business owners and others to blend short-term and long-term strategic thinking as it relates to pivoting a business model or any sort of business functions, I suppose. Bob, glad to have you here as a co-host here. Thank you. So, Bob, we're also going to be talking to Juan today. So, Juan, welcome to the program.
Hi, Rick. Thanks for inviting. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. So, for those that don't know Juan, Juan is a serial entrepreneur, as I would describe him. He has quite an extensive background in, I believe it's finance industries and real estate industries. And he's not a newcomer to pivoting any sort of business models. So today, Juan is going to be speaking on behalf of his experience as it relates to co-working and known co-working, which obviously is the parent organization here of Known Live, which is facilitating Pivot Talk moving forward. So welcome, guys. Thank you so much for coming. So Bob, can you introduce the background of this tool, the name of it, and kind of where that came from?
Absolutely. Thanks, Rick. I work with leaders in the region throughout New England and New York, and we work to scale organizations. And over the past few weeks, that path and where we need to go has become a lot less clear. Juan brought up, as we were talking a couple days ago, a great example of headlights only being able to show us so far into the future. And what we've done is we've developed this Survive Thrive tool to help us get a little bit back on track and deal with the current situation while focusing on the future. So I'd like to bring that up.
Sure. And while this is coming up, I do want to mention, as we are live, anybody who's watching, feel free to leave a comment or any questions that are going along. I'll be checking those comments and questions and relaying them to Bob and Juan here. It looks like we already have a comment. So hello there. Hi. Thank you so much for joining us. So as these comments come in, I will kind of interject here and there and relay those questions for you guys. Okay?
Awesome.
Yep.
So the Survive and Thrive tool is basically, it comes from the concept of the Stockdale paradox, which was introduced in the book Good to Great by Jim Collins a number of years ago. The story is of Admiral Stockdale, who was a prisoner of war in Vietnam for over 7 years, subject to conditions that most of us can't even imagine. But when he was interviewed after his release, and folks asked what was it that was the key to his survival, he said that really he needed to be able to hold two things that were seemingly contradictory in his consciousness simultaneously. And the first of those is he had to face the brutal facts of where he was, the lack of power that he had, the captors that he was dealing with, and take the necessary actions to survive day to day. At the same time, he never lost faith at the end of his story. His quote to Jim Collins have here, he says, "I never doubted not only that I would get out, but also that I would prevail in the end and turn the experience into the defining moment of my life." And I think that's it's a great thing to hold. He also said that those who were too optimistic and those who were too pessimistic were those who didn't make it. Really needed to be able to hold both of those things. So although in most cases our issues in business and organizations aren't as life and death and quite as dire, we can still do the same thing, right? What are the brutal facts? What are the things that we're facing right now? And what do we need to do with that in the short term, and while keeping in mind where we're really going in the long term? So what we use is a few pages of a tool here, and we start with some thought starters. And I would recommend, take we can make this available later, but take a sheet of paper and draw a line down the middle, right? And on the left hand side, what are the things that you're worried about? What are the things that you're facing now that you think you may be facing in the near future that have you concerned? Write it down. There's a lot of statements that naming the fear really helps to be able to address it, right? Fears fall into categories of ego, scarcity, and failure, but there's a lot of exercises for dealing with those. But the key is to be able to name it, and that's your first step.
Mm.
As you're thinking about what you're concerned about, I really like to have people think about the circle of concern versus circle of control model. So we have, if you think of two concentric circles, we have things that we can control in the inner circle, and we have things that are concerns in the outer circle. And certainly there are something as simple as the weather, but also the economy, the things in the news. There's a lot of stuff out there that we have no control over. That energy that we spend in that region is not very productive. So it's best to focus on the things that you can control, and that may be your activities and what you're doing. It also may even be attitude. It may be information that you're sharing with others. But the more that you can spend time in your circle of control as opposed to your circle of concern, the more effective you're going to be. And stop once in a while and think about where you are as you're acting at any time during the day. I think it's something that I find very valuable. And then the other side of this page, as we come back to it, is what are you optimistic about? Think in the future. What are the things about where you're going and where you see opportunities in the future, and list those as well. And so as we hit the end of this page, I'd like to turn it over to Juan, who's going to share. He's gone through this exercise for known co-working and has some great insights to share with us. Juan?
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate it. You kind of remind me of a few things. One is a book called Living at the Edge by Professor Perkins at Yale, and he did some research, extensive research on many of these groups that prevail. And one of them was Shackleton, and he has a lot of advice for leadership during these times. The second thing was Tony Robbins saying, there are two things that move us: is inspiration or desperation. So certainly those two tables that you show make you move. I really enjoy the whole process, Bob, of using your canvas or framework. This was really revealing to me. As anybody who's in the co-working realm, in our business, we are in three different industries. One is multifamily, the other one is hotel, and the third one will be co-working. I could tell you a story about each one, but in this program in particular, we're going to be focusing on share office space and how we see the landscape. I don't know if you can show some of the images, but as we went through the whole rollout of understanding where we are and what's going on, with the framework of course this social distancing, new protocols are going to be here for a while. Then how do we prepare for that? Being that co-working, it's all about sharing, collaboration, network, and all that. So how do you prepare if you have a co-working space for the new normal? What is that like? So going through this chart, one of the things that really hit you is like, are we going to be able to break even? If you wipe out the whole co-working, for a year, there's no share office or shared desk situation. You're going to have a proper distancing. You're going to have a lot more cleaning to do. It could be disruptive for co-working, but how do you adapt to this? How do you create a new business proposition that it's collaborative, that is based on community, which are and also could favor remote workers? And this is the other side of the equation. This is what we think, we feel optimistic about. In every recession, one of the biggest things is, how entrepreneurship blossoms. It happened in 2008, and it will happen, and it is happening, and it will happen strongly now. So co-working spaces play a great role in bringing all this community together and adapting to what's going to be the new normal. So we are very, very optimistic about it. I don't know if you could go through the whole So basically, what we jotted down was, we boost entrepreneurship and recessions, and boost on people looking to build community. And I guess another factor there is how do you and this is more connected to economic development in cities. One of the things that co-working spaces do is really helps bringing some it's a very dynamic way to work out the fabric of the community. We are based on downtown New Haven, at the historic district called the Ninth Square. It's a place where you could walk around. There's a lot of small businesses, retail, restaurants, and all that, and it's a great spot. Now, how is that going to look like in the coming weeks, in the coming months, and how are we playing a role there? It's going to be very critical to relaunching the whole economic engine.
Great, and I think that's great insight, and I think the examples of being able to think about opportunities and especially multiple opportunities, right, is I think that's an important way to go about this. Is trying to find paths forward.
So
as we move forward, go ahead.
Sorry, it looks like we have a comment from our own Barb commenting on our social media here. She's saying, I'm very optimistic that the tools for virtual community are available at this time, which enhances our ability to create community online. What do you guys think about that, Juan? Absolutely.
Well, one of the things that we're doing at Known Co-working, we're pivoting, just as the program says, we're pivoting to an online platform. Basically, we are, all the resources are out there to create community. And it's starting from Known Live, which is immediately it's an offshoot of Known Co-working. And what we're trying to do, and with the help of you, Rick, and let me give you a plug here. Creative, Rick leads a marketing firm called Creative, and he's been really, really instrumental in the launching of this, digital assets. And with Bob here now, he's going to be co-hosting several of these Pivot Talks. One of the things that we do, and attending to that question about online community tools and all that, is, right now it is really the time to learn about all these digital tools. And, one of the things that we said here in Known Co-working is, how about we help others while at the same time learning about these tools? And what a great thing would be if we create this Known Live, and within Known Live have this Pivot Talk and interview many businesses that are pivoting successfully during this, social distancing times. And I think that this would be a contribution to our own community. It will be an exploratory, rich learning experience. And this is the way, with a lot of optimism, that we're looking at this new venture.
And actually, before we jump back into the tool here, the Survive or Thrive, we do have Barb kind of waiting in the wings here. Should I bring her on screen? So
yeah, absolutely. And let me introduce Barb. Barb is our community manager. She's the person you want to meet other people. She's a great connector, and happy to have her. And I think she's missing her spot at the office, but nevertheless, that hasn't stopped her to networking all around Connecticut, and everybody that we've connected in the past.
Welcome to the program, Barb.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I was just thinking, actually, Rick is here because I brought him in, and Bob is here because I brought him in, as are, some of the other people. And it's actually astonishing to me that the thing that I was born to do, which is make connections between people, that's my role at Known. And so I would encourage any of you who are interested in taking part in Known live events, whether that is you want to do a pivot talk, or if you want to use Known Live as a platform to tell people about who you are and what you do and how you serve the community, we'd love to have you. And you can either message us on here, or you can send me an email at barb@knowncoworking.com. And I'm really excited about the rest of the show. So I'll bow out right now.
Great. All right, Bob, there you go. Got your thing back up.
Sure. And actually, before we move on, I would also like to make a plug for what Barb's doing is certainly being a connector has changed substantially in the past few weeks. But Barb has transitioned into using new tools extraordinarily well, and it's been very helpful. So as we move to a next page on this, we have a situational review. So we're going to go a little bit deeper and think about what's existing within your organization now. And so the top left section is tensions. What is existing within the current organization that is causing problems? And this might be within the organization itself or within the markets. What are the challenges that we have to deal with now? On the bottom on the left side is risks, and so risks get to be a little bit more future looking. And what I like to do with risks is actually a model called PESTLE, and this helps people think about where they might be able to find potential risks. And humans are, in most cases, pretty good at worrying. So sometimes it's often not a challenge, but sometimes it's a little bit difficult to think about the full spectrum of where these risks might come from. And PESTLE stands for political, economic, social, technological, environmental, and legislative. So there's a lot of different things going on around us. There's a lot of different things that affect us that we don't have much control over that may cause us concern. And so this is our opportunity to list those and specifically call out what we see as challenges going forward. Then as we move onto the right-hand side, now we're trying to think again of the positive sides. Now the gains section is the positives. What can we do right now? What can we do right now to improve the organization as we stand in the current circumstances? And the story that I like to share is from just a few years ago, 2014. The London Underground had a workers' strike that lasted about a month. And millions of British commuters had to find a new way to get around, to get to work, to get around the city. And what they found in a study soon after that strike was that 5% of the folks who had created new paths to get around actually kept the new paths after the strike ended and all the lines were available to them. The takeaway from that is to think about, often we're following suboptimal paths now, and sometimes these outside circumstances can help drive us to find something that's better than what we were doing in the past. Now, again, it's not all the time, but 5% of people in London is a decent amount of people, right? And so what is it that we're doing? The question that I would ask is, what is it that we're doing? What suboptimal processes do we have that, based on our current situations, we can improve in order to help us going forward? And then the last one is opportunities, and this is getting into forward looking, and it's getting into the positive things that we can do. And where I really like to see people focus on this is, what are the actions, what are the pivots that you can take as an organization that will make you essential to your core customer going forward? What are the pivots that you can make to make you essential for your core customer going forward? And if I do a lot of work with helping people define core customer, and I think that's a really valuable thing to help provide organizational focus. But think about what changes can be made for the organization, and that's what we want to focus on in that box.
So as it relates to kind of the co-working community and flex spaces and all that, you did this exercise with Juan. Is that what you said earlier, I believe?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just curious to hear kind of how that conversation went, if this is an appropriate time to dive into a little bit of that.
Timing is perfect. So we'll bring Juan on, and I've got his inputs here.
Perfect.
Okay, so yeah, what we did was let's look at the tension. So one of the things that you have to be aware of is people's habits are changing. To what extent those changes are going to be helpful, or to what extent are going to be long-lasting. One of the biggest issues that everybody has right now is that there's so much uncertainty in terms of planning long-term. So anything, one of the things that we said in the organization is, let's do 60-day plans. Let's just focus 60 days. Let's make progress. Let's identify a long-term vision. So let's just do 60 days, evaluate, get some goals, and then continue. And this is going to happen over and over again because we don't know whether this is a virus that will hit again in the fall. Nobody knows that. There's a lot of things that we don't know. We don't know how the small business fabric is going to be. In the summer, we don't know how it's going to be in the fall. But what we do know is we do need to create community or continue developing community. We need to be close to people. We need to try to connect people with resources. And this is where, this is the value proposition of a co-working space. How are we there for small business? How are we there for the entrepreneurs? There's a lot of risk. One of the biggest risk is, cash risk. I mean, are we going to have enough cash for the runway? Do we have enough of a runway cash to really support, I don't know, 6 months, 12 months? These are questions that every business needs to be making right now. How much cash can I deploy at this time? And by the way, the other big thing is how can we partner with the right stakeholders that are all interested in economic development, and what role those co-working spaces play in society. So those are bigger questions to be discussed with the proper institutions, nonprofits, as well as municipalities. So I encourage anybody who has a co-working space to really reach out to the Chamber of Commerce, reach out to the city, reach out to the state, and really understand what their position is in society and the community, and how could you be helpful. I think that's the best thing you could do right now.
Mm.
So in terms of opportunities, like I said, continue to focus online and work closely with companies to achieve first mover advantage. This is very important. One of the things that we've been seeing is, the restaurants who have completely gone. You have no idea where the restaurant you used to go in the corner is gone. You don't see it in social media. You don't see it anywhere. There are other restaurants who are completely closed, but at least you have some presence. And then there are others that are really proactive, very active, doing delivery and all that. So I would encourage those who are completely in the dark to really be out there. It doesn't cost much to be out there in people's mind, because your model might change, and you might be a grocery store, you might be a supplier of some kind of food. So you have to be out there for your people, because taking brand equity is something that takes time to build, and once you build a following crowd, you should try to protect that. Even though you're not really out there selling, at least you try to be there for your people. That's really important these times. When we go back to normal, you guys are, you're going to have first mover advantage. You're going to be able to capitalize greatly on that community coming back to you, and you're going to be doing a lot better than you were when you shut down.
And I think that's great. That's a perfect example, right? In thinking about opportunities, right? Defining the core customers, the smaller businesses in the region. What are the pivots that Known is making to address their current needs. I think that Juan's got some great examples there. This is exactly what we're talking about.
Mm.
So moving to the third and final worksheet of this exercise is sort of the last steps that drive us towards some action. So the left-hand side of this is related to, as a scaling up coach, I work with businesses to define their answers in 4 key areas to help them grow. Right? People, do you have the right folks on the bus, and are they in the right seats? Strategy, do you have the right unique offering for your core customers? Execution, are you getting things done on time and with a lack of drama? And cash, exactly what Juan said a couple of minutes ago, right? Is as much as we like to be profitable, cash is critical. Cash is the oxygen of an organization. Running out of cash is the end of the game, right? So we need to make sure that we have cash to be able to finance all of the other things that we're talking about. So what we do in here is we list where we think we are and what the ratings. There's no magic to the ratings. Really, what it is it's an opportunity to look at, are there taken right now. As we move to the right hand side, now we're looking at opportunities for action that bring positive benefits. So advantages. What's the unique offering that you have? And sometimes it's a little tricky to think of trying to be unique, because in many places you feel like you're the same as many other companies. But what's the combination of maybe 2 or 3 individual pieces of what you offer that no one else puts things together quite like that? And think about what those are. List what that would be. Then in the next one, in fact, the next 2 I'd kind of put together. What do the customers need right now, and what opportunities? Because I think the opportunities are the answers to what the key customers need right now. An example to this, I don't have the city in front of me, but a health-focused smoothie business that was hit very hard in this COVID time in the past few weeks suddenly had more than 50% loss of revenue and a whole bunch of raw materials, right? Fruits and vegetables sitting around that were perishable and likely to be lost. So they stepped back, thought about what are our core customers, right? They're people who are health conscious and looking to eat healthy. And what do they need? Well, they're looking to eat healthy. So they actually added a secondary business to what they were doing of selling directly fruits and vegetables for a period of time that was able to service what their core customers would value in this current situation. And they've got a triple benefit there, right? They don't lose their inventory. They actually create some additional revenue. And thirdly, and probably more importantly, they continue to build a really strong bond with their core customers. Finally, the bottom right corner, actions to take. And what I would suggest here is find a couple of specific actions. What actions can be taken? Maybe if you're thinking about an organization as a whole, think about who's going to drive that, and think about what the time frame is. Define that specific action and find the opportunity to move on it. I like this quote by Millard Fuller, who is the founder of Habitat for Humanity. Right, take action. Right, it's easier to act your way into a new way of thinking than think your way into a new way of acting. So have a bias towards action. Mm. So as we hit that, I want to back to Juan, and we'll talk about his thoughts on known co-working and actions that he sees for this third page.
All right. All right. So, in terms of the people part of it, Bob, one of the things that I jotted down, is too early to tell, if you really have the right team to capitalize on all the opportunities, because everything is being very dynamic. One example that I gave, Bob, is, I feel like, you're like in this really dark place, driving your car, your headlights are on, and you can only see so far, you can only see probably 30 feet away, 100 feet away, and at the most, you have no idea whether there's a curve at the end, or there's going to be a hill, or there's going to be a waterfall. You have no idea what's going to happen. So all you can do is try to work with the tools that you have right now. And since entrepreneurship is a combination of defining opportunity, defining your team, and really defining your resources. The people side of it, I would say that this is something that is very fluid, very dynamic when you're in a situation like we are right now. So right now, our team is, this is my team. It's you, Bob. It's Rick, it's Barb, and a couple of 2 or 3 people who are working more on the the tech side. And we're all trying to maneuver and try to make sure that we are able to do the best we can at this time with what we like to do. In terms of strategy, leveraging potential gains and opportunities via known live. I think that this is just this program itself is the basis for something greater that will come later. It could take the shape of many things, but more importantly is the community. It's a bottom-up approach. It's as you help community, as you help businesses, things are going to come. Things are going to be. We're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and that's what we're hoping. But it's really, we thought that the best thing we could do at this time is really create this program as a forum that businesses are going through the same thing. In terms of execution, a lot of hovering right now, and need to advance and retreat as we move along. So execution, I would say, it's a bumpy ride. I don't know, Rick, do you have the images of what we're doing in the physical space? I like to show, people what we're trying to do. So what you're showing here right now it used to be our great room for events, and now it's converted into a dedicated desk with plexiglass. We're not open yet. We're going to be open hopefully by the end of June. We're trying to leave this 30 days of learning between May 20th, which is when Connecticut office opens, and June 20th, to really understand, where we are, what the community wants, everything that needs to be changed in the office. This one right here is what we call the boardroom. It's a 16 people conference room. You could see that we're separating the tables. We're going to be putting plexiglass. There's a lot of dedicated spaces. One of the things that we want to do, and by the way, this is one of the things I should say, this is a historic building. It was Connecticut's first high school. It's called the Palladium Building. And it's just, the character of this place is just amazing. So what we're trying to do is bringing the virtual space with the physical co-working space. One of the things I'm really excited about is having those desks filled with people, working, but at the same time feeling that there's a community online that interacts with the physical space. Having the ability to bring the best of both worlds during these times is showing that we can make this happen. And I'm just talking about this. I'm just getting really excited. So I'm hoping we could really manage through this whole process. Rick, you're showing now the different assets. So the digital assets, what we have is Known Live, which is really the whole platform, and then we have the virtual co-working, which airs every Monday from 3 to 5. This is a place to share a lot of things from any trivial talk to resources. So we have our members, connect during, from 3 to 5, and even non-members as well. The other program is called Digital Media Sync, and this is your window to the digital world. Again, it's super key this time as you pivot your business to learn about all these tools, learn how to apply, take this time to really learn these things. So this is Julia Gush. She's been doing this since 2010, and now we are bringing this program to this virtual platform. You're going to enjoy this program, and it's great. And then the last one is People Talk, the program that we're working on with Bob and Rick, and you already know about the process. So all these three digital assets is what will come out as we pivoted the co-working space into the virtual space.
So and your other your note on cash is the same, right? It's critical to be able to have the cash to prime the pump and continue to support the activities that we're working on.
Right. Well, I'm glad you said that, because one of the things that we talk about this is building partnerships, and one of the things that we will be seeking more and more is the here's what we have. We have the physical space, we have a community, we have a virtual space, we have several assets to play with, but we have so much in resources. So what's the capacity or how are we able to partner with those who are lacking what we already have, and so that we can build a longer runway, so to speak. So yeah, we do have the ability to fund this for a while, but we are actively seeking help from the different stakeholders that are interested. Some of the things that we've been talking about is some kind of profit sharing model with some of the talents that we have in the community, and people are really interested in really being part of this. So I'm excited. I'm excited that this is all coming together very nicely.
Great. And then the on the activity side, again, I think you've got great examples of the movements that Known is making to basically combine what has to be done in the short term with keeping the long term vision of building the community together. And I think that's great.
Yeah, Barb, I don't know if you want to add anything. I feel like there's a lot of things that you're doing community wise, connecting with the right key stakeholders, both locally and also nationally. So I don't know if there's anything I miss. If I miss anything, just plug in.
No, I think you got it. I'm just wondering if you want to start building some interest in the things that we're growing towards in the future. I haven't heard you mention that, but maybe you don't want to today. So
No, absolutely. Yeah, that's fine. You know me. I'm thinking about the next one and the next
I
one.
know, Mr. Strategy right here, right here.
But I don't know. You guys want to talk about Rick or you, Barb? I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rick has a much better handle on it, but what we're intending to do is create a growth academy. And this is one of the areas where the profit sharing that Juan was talking about is that we're looking for folks who are subject matter experts to become mentors and trainers and teachers in our growth academy. And then, of course, we're also looking for people who want to participate in that to tap into the community of talent that we have here. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we're looking for more businesses that want to be profiled in Pivot Talks. And then we also really want to serve as a platform for the community to be able to talk about who you are, what you do, who you serve, and what kinds of clients you serve best and the value that you bring to them. Because I think, one of the things that we have is this platform, and we have a groundswell of community that is expanding. And if you don't have a platform for yourself, we can provide that for you.
Well said.
Great. So let's wrap up so those are really the three sheets that we look at in this workshop, and I just want to sort of tie this together a little. It's you can look back over many negative financial and economic situations and see that a lot of businesses start in that phase. But just going back to what we would call the Great Recession, 08, 09, and look at the names of businesses that we consider to be pretty mainstream and core now that were created either during that time or just after that time. It's a pretty interesting list and something to think about as we think about what are the opportunities in this current situation to create something that's going to become part of the core for the world going forward. And then finally, I would just say that this survive or thrive, I'd say much like the Stockdale paradox, right, is I challenge us to shift our thinking. It doesn't necessarily need to be a survive or thrive. I think it can be a survive and thrive. So think about the short-term needs and think about the long-term opportunities. And if there's anyone that's watching this, I'm offering a free 30-minute follow-up for anyone that wants to go a little bit deeper on this. Just email me. There's an email address that's crawling at the bottom of this page, and I'd be glad to do either or both of two things: is schedule a time to go a little bit deeper for you, a 30-minute session, or share the framework pages that you can work with on your own. And then other than that, back to Juan. Anything else that you want to share as far as what Known is doing and where Known is heading around this?
Well, I think just like you, I think my email and your email were shown at the bottom of the screen. If there's any question from the audience, anything that we can answer for you, or you could shoot an email to us, happy to help. If you know businesses that could be showcased here at Pivot Talk, we love to hear from you. We typically take time before the programming. We want to make sure that the program is well curated before it airs. And I think it will be it will be a learning process. But what we like is really to bring in the community to talk about what they're doing and bring ideas to the business community and learn from it.
Absolutely. So just a reminder for those who are watching this as a rewatch after we are live, you can add comments to Facebook or YouTube to this video. Several of us will, I'm sure, be monitoring these comments after the fact, getting the notifications, and we'd love to interact with you there as well. So if you're not catching this live, still feel free to comment anyway, because we will see them, and any questions you may have, others may have as well. I'm sure they'd love to see the responses we may have for that too. So, this is to any of you here, but kind of zooming out from known itself and thinking of flex space and co-working spaces as a whole. What are your thoughts or perspectives on the evolution of this now? How other spaces may be pivoting outside of our immediate area? Do you have any thoughts on what are the immediate concerns? How does this pivot talk that we're having today kind of reflect that pattern that is probably going on with co-working as a whole?
Yeah, absolutely, Rick. One of the things that I've been watching closely is what are the bigger companies in the spectrum are saying. Not only the co-working spaces, but also CB Richard Ellis is saying. And the big thing is nobody's really making big bets on big capital investments. And partly is what we talked about before is what's the scenario? Is this a new normal for how long? Is it going to be 6 months, 12 months, 18 months? So nobody really knows that. But what they're doing, the big companies, what they're doing is really focusing on the whole experience and the co-working spaces being one where you have all the digital resources you could possibly imagine. So they are equipping all their conference rooms with the latest technology on virtual co-working and make it a very nice experience for the co-worker. There's big questions corporations about going back to the office. Huge questions. I mean, what we're living is really transformative in terms of not only I would say not only. We used to think about this of being a 3-month thing or a 6-month thing, but as you watch the different industry captains and the analysis from the biggest consulting firms in the U.S., they're all thinking about this being a transformation, like a major transformation in the way we live demographically in terms of all the patterns. So a lot of the thinking that came to play in terms of in my side, the other side of me is real estate development. That whole area is changing dramatically. Thinking about the trend of the millennial staying in the cities and the baby boomers going selling their houses in suburbs and going to the cities. That in itself is being questioned right now. So you used to see the smaller apartments downtown. It might be, it might not be. We don't know yet. How's that going to impact? So I think the thinking, there are architects here. I've talked to certain architects, and they're now rethinking that. Urban planners and all that. They're rethinking the cities. So this is an incredible transformation that's taking place. Not to mention a transformation in the way we were conceiving globalization. How the whole supply chain is moving from global to national in certain firms. Certainly, healthcare is happening. We're going to have a lot more domestic healthcare supply production, and we are going to have a lot more food domestic supply production. There's no question that those are two sectors are going to be hugely impacted, immediately impacted by what we're seeing.
So how do you see these kind of macro trends that you're referring to now affecting smaller neighborhoods like Ninth Square that we find ourselves in, other communities that are more at a micro level, these smaller kind of ecosystems? How do you see that being affected by this transition and pivoting now as it relates to what you were just explaining?
Well, I think it's going to be, it's very hard to really see what's going to happen because the rules of the game that you used to think about, what do you have to have so that retail could blossom and the office space and all that blossom. You first build your residential inventory, so to speak, and then that will flow into retail and that will flow into office and all that. But now their trends are really tough. I mean, just take this one for instance. A lot of people who work in the main hubs, let's say Boston, New York, and all that, they're finding that their dollar in the suburbs or their dollars in cities like New Haven are worth a lot more than what it is New York. So so there might be opportunities there for New Haven to be a place where it's a very nice walkable city. And there's a lot of people that they don't want to pay New York prices. They love to be in New Haven, and they could work remotely. And we are right next to the State Street station, known co-working. We are a place where there's a transportation hub. You think about a lot of the companies allow their workers to work remotely, partly because they want to work remotely. I think there are opportunities that will come as well.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah, I have a couple of thoughts, Rick, and that is just my personal experience from the people that are just chomping at the bit to get out of their house, but they're not going to go back to their office. And I think it's the perfect time for co-working for so many people, because even if it's just one day a week or a half a day a week where you get out of the house, you have access to business services, you get to connect with other human beings, but in a safe manner because of all the precautions that we're going to be taking. And in terms of, more people working remotely, I think there's a lot of companies and businesses out there that didn't see remote work as an option. And now not only is it an option, it's amazing because the infrastructure costs are so much less. And they're going to encourage their people to work, or maybe not even encourage, but require their people to work from home. And as we all know, it gets a little bit tiring to be in the same place in the same time. So I suspect there will be more and more co-working places popping up. And I think Known is incredibly well situated because, as Juan said, not only are we in downtown New Haven, but we're a block away from the State Street station. And we have, residential, restaurants, retail, grocery store, everything, right in our neighborhood. And so I think we are perfectly situated to take advantage of this, but also to be an asset to the community, because not only do we have that physical space, but then we have this digital platform that we have created.
Absolutely, I would say Barb's spot on. There is there are a number of folks that are out in Greater New Haven now who have come from New York or Boston for what they thought was short term to get into an area of safety, who are now thinking about, well, in the midterm, if I'm only back in the office every other day or every third day, maybe I don't need to live where the rents are so high, and maybe I need to rethink where I am. So I think there's going to be a lot of that going on in the near future.
Yeah, I would say personally that's exactly my thought process. Is it always has been my goal for my business as a creative agency, a marketing agency, to end up being more remote with my team and more fluid. But now this is kind of shifted so that there's no reason we have to be all in one space at one time. We're picking up these technical skills very quickly and using the appropriate software to kind of bring us together digitally, and having these kind of spaces like this to put ourselves out there and to know that we can be a part of that process and helping other people do that seems to be more rewarding for me personally. And knowing that I don't necessarily have to be at my office physically every single day, but knowing that I can when I need to, and knowing that Known is now where creative actually is as of the last month or two, it brings a sense of flexibility and agility that we didn't have before. And I think going forward, that's going to be more and more important to other business models as well. Sure.
I love that word, agility, Rick. I think that's really appropriate. And then speaking of the tools, I actually want to give a plug to Zeph Zahn of Entrepreneurs That Soar, who's actually the person that launched us on this journey of Known Live and introduced us to the tool that we're using right now, which is called StreamYard. And I've only used it one time as a host, but I cannot say enough good things about this tool. It's incredibly easy to use. It's got lots of wonderful tools, and it was actually really fun to use. And so again, I really want to thank Zeph from the Known community for launching us into this world and introducing us to this tool and getting us started on the Known Live journey. And you will be hearing from Zeph again. Don't you worry about that.
Absolutely. Just a quick little plug for her. So check her out. She has been and will continue to be a great resource for us. Oh, look, she's getting some love from some comments here. Thanks, Lynn. And just kind of helping kind of facilitate the process and consulting with us and helping us really create the strategy around this. So definitely, she's a great resource for that. Absolutely. And I would say the way you just did that, Barb, and mention the people in our community that connect with us and help us through this process, that ties into this idea of pivoting that Bob and Juan were talking about. It's not just about like, what is the business model operationally speaking, but the people, I think, was one of your first assets in that toolbox. Is that right, Bob?
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah. So I think that's very interesting. Yeah. So we have about 10 minutes left on this broadcast. So if anyone is looking to get any questions answered at this point from any of us on the show here about pivoting, whether it's in general shifting and evolving your business model operations or how you're dealing with certain circumstances, or specifically as it relates to co-working or flex spaces and this current pandemic we find ourselves in, feel free to leave that comment. If we're live, we'll answer now. If it's after the fact, we'll certainly comment to that later on as well. And just a follow up to that too, we will be hosting these videos on Facebook, on YouTube, and on the Known website, which you can go to known.live, and that will forward you to the appropriate place on our website for all of these really cool broadcasts. So for future reference.
That's really exciting.
Yeah. So with the last few minutes left, Bob, Juan, Barb, do any of you have anything you want to share about Pivot Talk, this concept of Pivot Talk, where we're going with this, what you're excited about, and what's next?
Well, I think we should talk about what other industries we like to hear from. I think one of the things that we want to do is a program dedicated to restaurants. That's really, really critical right now, and how they're all pivoting. So we're going to be taking this industry by industry. The idea is to create some kind of catalog, that online catalog that you could actually see, what other people in the industry are doing, and try to elaborate best business practices. So what we foresee is, people coming up with tools and all that, and also try to disseminate all these tools and all this experience to our community. That's the whole goal.
So if we do have someone who's from certain industries, whether it's the restaurant, hospitality side at this point, or a different industry that wants to reach out to us, what Barb, Juan, Bob, what's the best way for them to reach out, you think?
I think probably emailing me would probably make the most sense. So I'm available at Barb at Look at You, all prepared and everything. Barb at knowncoworking.com.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Also,
great.
be sure to like us on Facebook, and we're at Known Co-working on Facebook, which you're probably on right now, and we're also at Known Co-working on Instagram and on LinkedIn as well,
and YouTube too.
And that's new. Didn't realize. Okay. See, everything is literally changing from day to day.
And this is exciting. I think
doesn't like change. I know this is a hard time for you, but you'll make it.
I think this is exciting in that the pivot talks. Right, I completely agree with what Juan is saying. Industry specific. There's a lot of things specific to, say, a restaurant industry or something else in hospitality. Right. There's a lot of industry specific things we can share, and it's great that people can dial into those. But I think the other opportunity is for people to see that as we do these, there's also going to be common threads that run across no matter what your industry, no matter what your size, that people can also take away from these. So I'm really excited to as we put a number of these together, to be able to offer not only the specifics but the generalities that people can use to help pivot.
Absolutely. Juan, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I take a moment to plug a couple of things that we have going on? Coming up?
Yeah.
Or do you want me to wait a minute to do that?
Yeah, no, that's totally fine.
Okay, so tomorrow at 10 a.m., we have Amanda Rivera, who is an amazing young woman who is a PR consultant, keynote speaker, etc. And she's going to talk about how to get your writing into mainstream media markets. And she's going to profile a particular client of hers who got a 10K job, 10K benefit from having worked with her. That's tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. and it will be broadcast on Facebook Live, but it will be recorded in there afterwards. Next Monday is our next Pivot Talk, and it will be featuring Ethan from Escape New Haven. For those of you who are not familiar, I'm not going to do the best job of describing escape rooms, but it's a physical place where people go in small groups and they solve puzzles and riddles to be able to make their way through the space. And obviously, in this period of time, that's not something people are going to be able to do. So Ethan is going to be talking about how Escape New Haven and various other escape rooms have pivoted to an online community, and he'll be talking with Bob and going through this Survive or Thrive model. Then next Thursday at 8:30 in the morning, as part of Known Live, we will be profiling Megan Wooding. She is a self-published New Haven author who is going to talk about both the writing of her novel and why she chose self-publishing and what she learned on that journey. And then the following week, on Thursday, the 28th at 10 a.m., we'll be doing another Pivot Talk, and we will be featuring Della Leapman. She will also be working with Bob through his model. And Della is the creator of Nestle, which is a lactation space for business places, much like co-working spaces like ours. And the pivots that she's had to make as a result of COVID-19 to ensure the health and safety of the space for the nursing, or pumping moms and those around them. So we're really excited about all these upcoming events, and we'd love it if you'd attend on Facebook Live. But if not, we will have them recorded both on Facebook Live and on Known Live, as Rick mentioned.
Brilliant. Any closing thoughts, guys, and Barb, before we wrap up?
Excited about this initiative.
Yeah. I am pretty excited. So, Bob, thank you so much for introducing us to the Survive and Thrive tool set and process that you have. Juan, as always good to hear your vision and your thoughts. And Mark, thank you for speaking very well about all these different things we have going on, because I would have slaughtered that. So anybody watching live, thank you so much for coming and watching this show. Please make sure you go to known.live and you check out the different programming that we have on there for Known Live. One of the programs, as you see here, is Pivot Talk. We do have a few other programs that are happening and will be happening. So you can go there. You could sign up for notifications on any of this programming, so that way you know what's coming up. And we will have the ability so that you can sign up and get exclusive access in the future to kind of premium content as well. So anyone signing up now will get kind of extra benefits doing so and being an early adopter during this time. So thank you everybody for coming. If you have any comments and you're watching this live, you can leave them. We will be coming back to the recordings later and interacting as well. So thanks guys, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks
you.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Stay well.